All right. Good afternoon. Good evening where you are. But today, Playbook to Success is going a little international. This is an awesome experience for me. I'm a new big fan of our guest today, who is one of our bright and shining stars from Bermuda. But I don't want to just tell you about it. I'd rather you see for yourself so you don't call me a liar. So, without further ado, we're going to show some of her highlights so you can actually um, see for yourself the skills this lady has. And this highlight's a little different because I wanted to showcase where possibly she began, and then to allow you to see how she's evolved as a player growing. So without further ado, let's see if we can pull it up. And right. Now tell me, when you see that, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
That Trinidad game, because playing Trinidad, we were underdogs and we won it one game, 1-0, sorry. And to this day, I haven't been left it all on the field like I did and my teammates did for that game. And I think for Bermuda and young women, I think that was the start of our climb that we're on right now. So to date, that is still one of my most memorable games.
Talk to me about it though. Uh, You look so young and small. Like, what's going through your mind? Because I've actually had the pleasure of playing in Trinidad, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. It was very rowdy. It was very loud. You had people screaming. What was your emotions going through it? Because, I mean, I don't want to say what I think, but I want you to share what was going through your mind.
Well, we had previously in our first round lost to Puerto Rico in 180 seconds. So our coaches for about 15 minutes of the game were screaming 180 seconds because we knew that that's how fast in football we could lose it or could win. So I did think it was the longest 180 seconds because then after the game I realized that my coach had been screaming it for an absurd amount of time. But I just knew that if my teammate next to me was kept on going, then I had to keep on going. And I mean, they had the upper hand, and I think they were a bit shell shocked by us, and it was just a great experience. I mean, on the field, you're just in that moment, and it was to win the group, and we just gave everything. And like I said, to this day, that is one of the best games, and because of the result.
Talk me through it. Where did you fall in love with football? How did you become a football mania?
Ooh, it's a bit different of a story. When I was younger, and at that time, I was actually very in love with tennis and playing for Bermuda. So football was not my like dream at that time. It was definitely tennis. And then I had a coach who kept kind of bugging me to leave the high school football side and come play club. And as soon as I played club, the atmosphere and the unity with the girls and the team just gravitated me. And I just, after that, I couldn't stop with football. So when I was traveling for tennis and then going for football, it was just, I couldn't get enough of football from that time. So I think, I don't know exactly when it changed from tennis to football, but it's not a change that I regret. And sometimes I even forget that I did tennis once upon a time.
That's so funny because it's great to hear your story, and I didn't even know you did tennis, so it's news to me too. But doing dual sports, it's hard. It comes, and then it must have been an amazing pull for you because you were young. Talk me through that. What was the defining moment, if you remember, or maybe there were some sequences or leadership who helped you?
Yeah, definitely a lot of different leadership. Like I said, Coach Fisher was my coach for Saltus, along with my gym teachers who kept telling me, football. And Coach Fisher, she's also one of my best friend's mother. So I had that connection. So I really couldn't escape her. So I decided to go play club actually so that my friend could have a friend. And I had no idea when it was going to escalate. I think coming from a small country with tennis, it was at that time where I was a bit younger than my teammates. So they all went off to boarding school to get a better quality. So it started to become just me and my coach. So I think that at that age, going from just me and my coach training, and then after like training tennis literally in my football clothes, and then going to football, and then I'm surrounded by all these girls from all different backgrounds and all different stories and just cracking up laughing. I think that is what got me. But I had to make a decision because it was taking a toll on my academics with doing tennis and football and traveling for both. And I think just thinking about where I was having the most fun was football. And I don't have that. I do wish I had that one, like, boom, that changed it. But I think it was just a slow process. And then I decided that, I had to make a decision for myself, and football was where I was having fun. So the most fun.
No, it's amazing to hear your story because a lot of people, and maybe I'll just get to the point. Most boys your age, if they had to make that decision, would make the wrong choice.
Yeah.
So to hear the maturity had already kicked in and you were just like, okay, maybe I'll take this ride, especially with the academic side struggling. That's an awesome testament to, the mentals you were working with. But walk me through that. Now you start to play club and you start to become competitive. Do you get a point where you realize this is not fun anymore? This is like, it's going to take some level of concentration that diminishes some of the fun. Did you ever experience that, or was it all fun? Like, I'm just growing. I'm just growing in the game.
I think the competitiveness was fun for me. When I mean fun, it was the fact of grinding with people on the field and having that, a goal comes and you have all the celebration, while a tennis match is different for people. You still have that adrenaline and all that internal and individual fight and work that you have to do. But I think also knowing that at the same way that you're creating relationships with people next to you, you're then seeing them evolve and seeing the result of having that. So with football, that's where it came, but it was never not fun. It only became more and more fun because at first football wasn't where I was showing so much, being so competitive. It was in tennis. And then when I realized that football was in a way a different sort of competitiveness, that was fun as well. So it never stopped being fun for sure.
That's I like that because a lot of people, well, a lot of student athletes I work with, they usually hit this bump where it's like, this isn't fun. This is like a job. But to know that you enjoyed it to a point in place where you were like, nah, I embrace the competitiveness about it, speaks to the volumes of where you are now. But talk me through it. Now you're starting to grow, you're starting to develop. What moves were you making as far as football was concerned to potentially, and let me ask you this, did you ever feel within your heart that you wanted to do this professionally?
Probably not at that age when I was young. I wasn't, and I'm still not a big, okay, I'm going to do this step and then that step and then this step. It's very in the moment and kind of going with the flow. And I know that I want to do this right now. When you talk about that bump, I think that bump became with tennis. I think it did become not as fun. But with football, I knew that I wanted to leave the island because I wanted to leave the island anyways to experience something new, but I also wanted a better level of football because I did want to play at a higher level. So then when IMG Academy is a sports academy in Florida, they have a connection with Bermuda and some coaches came down to watch us train. At first it wasn't a school that I was extremely interested in because it's extremely high financially, but I wanted to go to boarding school. So I was looking at boarding schools all over. And my dad was kind of pushing me a little bit away from IMG just because if you know anything about it, the facilities are out of this world. And he knew if I went there, it was no turning back. But my mom was really the one that was just like, just go, see what happens. And then I went and we worked out something that was able to make it happen. Another one of my two Bermudian girls also went with me. So when I went to IMG, that's when the goals of playing collegiately and a little bit professionally started, because IMG is a high school, but it's a very much college atmosphere, a very, very competitive atmosphere. And that is honestly the start of my journey to where I am now, was starting there at IMG and then getting that, going to school half the day, but playing half the day. So everyone there is literally there for their sport. Academic isn't not necessarily second, but you're there to then go higher collegiately or straight professionally. So you're in an atmosphere where everyone is your teammate, but you're also competing and pushing each other, because, everyone there doesn't want to just like play just for fun. They want to get to the top level that they can.
I love it. I mean, most people look at IMG as like I guess in Europe we call it farm clubs or something like that. Like it's a ground basis. I think they have them in UK. What do they call them? Like colleges, sports colleges, where basically it's almost like, yeah, you go to school. Yes, school is important. It's a legal requirement, but we're grooming you for sport. Right. So we're grooming you for sports. Did that kind of give you a good idea what professional life looked like?
It did. I mean, it hit me right in the face. I was like, this is insane, because we went to mental classes, we had strength and conditioning coaches, we had rehab facilities that were out of this world, and they're even more high tech and more advanced now than they were when I was there. I mean, if I went to the school now and like I know a few people there, like seeing pictures, I don't even recognize facilities. Like, so when I chose college, I had to forget where I went to high school facility wise, because I wouldn't have chosen anywhere. But yeah, definitely. IMG is it's indescribable, but it definitely did. When I was there, I was like, this type of attention and type of environment is where I would want to be for the rest of my life.
That's great. So you're at IMG. Talk me through it. Are your years pretty easy? Did you adjust pretty well? Was it a bit of a transition? Because I went to boarding school as well for basketball, and I can be honest with you, on the court wasn't a problem, wasn't. But off the court, yeah, it's a different story, because you have you and you know this all too well. You're in the limelight. Like, you're probably the best school in your area. You probably have the best players in your area. Talk me through that. What was the adjustment like for you?
If anybody knows me, I don't adjust to change very easily. From home, very homesick, very new environment. The adjustment to academics or socially, not a problem. It hasn't been a problem when I studied abroad or when I went to college. Academically hasn't been an issue. Like you said, on the court, on the field, was comfortable. Then my biggest struggle was being away from home. And when I overcame that and made friends, it was smooth sailing, in the fact that then I absolutely loved the school. But it was very hard for me at the beginning to take in how grateful I should have been and how blessed I was to be there. And I was very wrapped up in very temporary emotions. But as soon as I made friends, and then they became like my family, and IMG became my second home, and I couldn't wait to go back. But definitely adjusting has never been easy for me. It wasn't easy for college and it wasn't easy for high school, but not in the sense of academically or socially or athletically, just in being in a new environment and not necessarily feeling the alone.
Yeah, it's tough. I never forget the first day I was there. I went and played basketball, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy!" And I'm like, "Okay, I could kind of live in this world. This is pretty nice." And then I went to the dorm, and I was like, "Oh man, yeah, this is where I'm gonna be." Like, there's no mom coming to wake you up for school. There's no nothing. It's almost like an introduction to university immediately. And if you don't get the grades, or if you don't do X, Y, and Z, the opportunity is over. So that's definitely something that's interesting. And I'm glad you brought that up. So talk me through it. You finally get acclimated, you're comfortable. And now you're in that space where you're kind of evolving and thriving. Now colleges are coming. How did you go about your choosing of a college?
Well, I think internationally, and especially at that time, especially in Bermuda, we're a step behind in the way that we don't know how the collegiate recruiting process works. I mean, in America, and Americans, they start so early, people would be completely shocked at how early they start. So when I came in at my junior year, I was already behind. And because I was very focused at the beginning on temporary emotions and also just loving now being a leader in my team and meeting girls and people from and boys from all over the world and having friends, I knew like college, but it was, I think in a way it was like, you know what, like I'm playing well, I'm on this team, we're doing well, like they're gonna come to me. Like I don't need to do the emails. But then I started, doing an email here and working with my coaches, but I wasn't on that real drive like the other girls on my team. I was very much in, everything happens for a reason, which I still do believe, and it'll come to me. So then in my senior years, when my coach was really like, you can play high, like, but a lot of clubs, schools that were coming to see, the younger teams or our team were like, they would tell me, you would play for me, but my recruiting year is closed. So you could come to our school and be a walk-on. But financially being in America and being international, that wasn't that wasn't feasible. Nor did I want that kind of 50-50, like, oh, you could walk on, because I was going to college, yes, to get a degree, but being the athlete I am, I was going to play. So it was, yes, I want to get a degree, but my first thing was, where am I going to play? Who am I going to fight with? Who am I going to win with? So in my senior year is when I really like clicked, and I was like, okay, like I have to, kick in, because where am I going to go to school? And, I started talking to coaches, had a few here, had a few there, but I played in Disney, and the College of St. Rose, where I went to college, actually messaged me. And my coach was, I remember to this day, his reaction was like, what? Like, that's a great school. Like, they're still open. Like, their recruiting is still open. And his reaction was that. I was like, oh, this is school. I'm going to go. Like, the way he was reacting. So I was very lucky. And if I could do it again, I wouldn't do it any other way, but I would give advice to very international and young, high schoolers to start early, because it isn't ever too early. It's definitely can be too late with a lot of schools that you might want to go to. And I needed, in my experience with IMG, I knew that I needed to find a school that wasn't just the campus. I needed to have things around me because I knew how I would adjust. So St. Rose was small, so I could have the relationships with the teachers. It was in a city. I'd have a bunch of stuff to do around. And it was at a very high competitive D2, and a very, like, known as one of the most competitive conferences for women's football. So it happened to tick all the right boxes, but I was very lucky.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's no accidents. Everything happens for a reason. Like, I never forget when I chose a university, like I got emails the next day, like from coaches that I've been stalking. And they were like, oh man, I just got your email. Are you still? And I'm like, man, can I decommit? But looking back on it, like you look at it, you say, no, it's perfect environment. It groomed me for where I needed to go. So talk me through it. You get there, you're starting to play, you've got all the boxes are checked off. Do you hit that wall again as a collegiate athlete? Like, okay, this is not like, or did you just thrive and begin to grow as an athlete?
If I'm being honest, the only obstacle that I hit was, again, just being comfortable with being in a new environment. But if I look at my athletic, as soon as I just started to grow, I was in a very big class. It was 15 of us. So we had a really big role for the older ones. If anyone knows my coach, she has a very high standard. She's been the only coach at College of St. Rose, national championship. She doesn't accept anything but the best. So it was a very high intensity environment, but I absolutely loved that. And I didn't want to go into a school where I was a big fish in a small pond. I wanted to be small so that I could grow. And I was very fortunate to start as a freshman, so it only went up there. It wasn't the smoothest sailing, like from a freshman starting, and then my senior year when we made Final Four. I did have a rocky junior year, but I studied abroad in South Africa with my best friend in the spring, where I fell back in love with football. And then my senior year, I couldn't have asked for anything better. But definitely my college experience athletically and altogether was very memorable. A lot of ups and downs, but nothing that I would change. Like we said, everything happens for a reason, and I couldn't have asked for a better senior year.
So you have, I don't know, I call that a dream 4 years because mine was hell on earth. We won't even go there. I'm just being honest. Mine was so crazy, dear God. Anyway, but you had a great college career, and I'm happy for you. Do you start thinking around junior, senior year, hey, you know what? Maybe I do take this to the professional level. Do you hear any bells whistling? WUS the Women's League here in the States. Do you start hearing anything, or what's the next thing that prompts you to, maybe I can do this professionally?
Being honest, it's always something that I wanted to be like 110% in, like I don't want to do anything else, but I want to play. But being realistically and being a woman in this world, it's not something that not everyone has that privilege of diving into it because of financially, because of the very competitiveness of it and the selection, and also just being that there's not a lot of support behind it. So I knew that I didn't want to stop playing. So I knew that in my life I wanted to end in Bermuda, but I didn't want to be there right out of college because we don't have a structured women's league. So I knew I had to keep studying. So I said, you know what, I'm going to study somewhere where I can play. So I started talking to Play Overseas, which is a company that helps American-based players go and play in like the UK or anywhere around the UK where they still study. So I started working on that, highlight tape, and had a bunch of schools around the UK to go. So that's what I was going to do. And then when COVID hit, it put everything online. So I was like, you know what, I can be online and I can go play. And then my boyfriend was here in Sweden. So with the world on hold, I was like, what better time to just send it? Because what else do I have right now? The school was, it was too much chaotic in UK. My parents were, and neither was I comfortable to go live there with COVID. In Bermuda, we were in lockdown, but jobs, and it's already such a hard time for my age to come out of college and to get, that ideal job right away. And again, I want to play. So I honestly my parents were very supportive, a lot of talking, and I just sent it. And then when I started playing out here, I was like, the only thing I know right now is this. So when I'm trying to figure out career-wise, why not do this? So that's where I'm at right now. If I'm being honest, no, I wasn't in college like, I'm going to play pro like that. I'm going to do this. But it was always in the back of my mind that I wish I could do that. But because I'm not male, it wasn't like I could start from the bottom and make a living. So I always knew that realistically, I have to find career-wise, I have to, and start being realistic, but I do want to play. I do want to be involved in it. So, that's where I'm at right now. Still very realistic, but still also getting more and more confident in myself to know that this is something that I can do, whether it's going to be have a long career or really temporary. Like I said, I just kind of living right now. And right now I'm just really enjoying Sweden and coming back in January playing, and then trying to find a job so I can juggle it. But hoping, my fingers crossed, that I do evolve as a player and get a lot more looks and make that my main thing.
Like, I'm so impressed with you. Like, you're so level-headed. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I went pro, I was like, that's the only thing I'm doing. Who cares about getting a job? I don't care about this degree. This means nothing to me. I'm playing. I don't know where. I don't know how. That's all I'm doing. I'm playing. And that was the mindset. And my mom was like, dude, you got to think outside. I'm like, you're a hater. Don't get put in that category. Like, for real. But I love the fact that you're thinking, you know what, I can make this a reality, but I also have to be realistic about it. And I think so many people go into it unrealistic and they're let down. And when you let down, it kind of like almost starts a downward spiral towards what you're doing next, which is like, nah, I hate this job. Like, you know what I mean? Because you were unrealistic. But that's pretty dope. So talk me through it. You are in Sweden. Your boyfriend's in Sweden. You both play sports. Talk me through that. Is that a level of comfort for you? Because there's someone who's been there, who's kind of adjusted to it. Does that make the transition easier? Or is it still, you still got to figure your own way?
Definitely figure my own way. Like, I have to make my own path, my own friends, which I have, but definitely comfort. For the first time when I moved to Florida, when I moved to Albany, South Africa, very struggle at the beginning. For the first time, I didn't struggle. It just almost felt like I have already been here and I've already been living, and like, let's get it. Like, I want to play. So I don't really know. It obviously has to do with him. It has to do with that maturing and growing up and knowing that, I want to play and the world is how it is right now and you have to count your blessings. So my team wasn't the first team that I expected to sign. It was, like a small setback, but ended up being the best thing because now I have, which I think, lifetime friends, and I have a very promising team for the future. And it was a completely better environment than the first club that I had a day trial with that was a lot higher. So now it's like, it feels like I have been here for a long time. And I'm going home for the holidays, but I'm also so excited to come back.
So talk me through it. You're there. There's a level of comfort. Obviously, you've matured. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I look at your tape at first, I see a young girl looking to find herself. When I look at you play in college, I see a woman who knows where she wants to go. Like when you pass the ball, I think it's one highlight. When the ball comes to you, you've shifted your body, but you already know where the ball is going. And you drive it about 15, 20 yards to the next person. And you're like, I like to call it like a swag jog. Like when you know what you're doing and you know the ball's going to go there, you just give like a little jog like, yeah, I knew that. Now that you have this comfort about yourself and your game, what are you looking for from yourself this year as to grow from? Like, because I've seen the growth. Like I watched all of your highlight film. And I looked at you when you were in college and I see that you've become a scorer. You've stepped into different spaces. Your reaction time is good. And most importantly, your first touch has become like very, very good, if I must say so myself. But now, is there any goals that you have going into this season? Like something that you want to pinpoint and say, right, I want to get really good at this?
I think there's a lot of things. I have had a good coming in. It was a hard time to come in because the season was past the halfway. It was pretty much wrapping up. So it was hard to get any real team to be like, invest in like, oh, a new person come in and kind of shift the team. But I mean, my team, like at the same time where I feel like I've been here in Sweden for a long time, it felt like I had been with them. And at the beginning, it was very kind of like a timid, like you don't want to come in and, completely shake it. But there was one thing that I learned from my first trial was that instead of trying to come in and be comfortable, sometimes you have to come in and give that like, real aggressiveness to show that like, you're here. So that's definitely something that I have learned already. In the new season, a lot to grow. When I was in college in my last year, I played left back and also right back. So a very defensive role, but a very leadership role, which is very important to me, even with Bermuda. And even with this team now. So I ended playing as right wing. So I think for this upcoming year to have more confidence in myself, to know that I can do what I want to do and to be a bigger presence on the field and to be I try to be a big presence in my team, but also to kind of emulate and show that on the field so that I can move up because that is my biggest goal this season is to be so impactful that I can make the next step. And then for playing wise, I always need work on my left foot. So that's definitely something I have to work on. And then other than that, just to do what I've always done, and that's to work for my team.
I didn't want to say your left foot needs a little work. I wanted to stay on the positive side. But, since you mentioned it, I mean, hey, we can go with it. But no, I love it. I love it that you're honest. I love the fact that, a lot of times when you do this with younger people, they're unrealistic. Like they have their ideas and you don't want to carry them or like embarrass them on camera and be like, bro, that's not how it's going to be. Like, I'm just telling you, it's not going to go that way. But I love the fact that you're very realistic about it and you're looking at it from a realistic standpoint and they're realistic goals. So last question, because I've kept you long enough. You've been injured. Talk to me about that process, mentally and physically. What are you learning about your body and what are you learning, as a professional? Like maybe it's some things I need to do better at taking care of myself, ice baths, whatever. Have you learned anything new and how are you coping with being injured?
In the last couple of weeks, it's been a lot mentally because of how, COVID is now. Also, before I decided to come back in January, I had to kick in the realistic thing. I mean, it's a very positive thing that I am very realistic, but it can also be a bit of a wall because it's very hard to just kind of let go and be like, I'm playing football and be grateful for that because I was looking also for a job. So it's been hard with that to get my residency here, but things have worked. The club has been very graceful and very helpful to get me residency papers. So that's what I'm looking for right now. So when I was injured, it was kind of just like one more thing. It was like, I don't know if I should stay here. I don't know if I should go home. I don't know what the future is. And now I got injured literally doing extras. So I didn't even get injured to what an athlete might feel like worth it. Like I didn't do that last minute tackle and then boom, I got injured. I was doing extras, which obviously I was trying to get better, but it was mostly just playing around with some of my teammates. So, I mean, like everything happens for a reason. And I think it's kind of shook me to now I know that, just at the point now, it can switch so quickly. So just kind of doing extras, not preparing, not recovering, not taking care of your body, maybe at getting a little bit older, even though I'm not older. I can't just do that like I was younger, just a tiny bit older, but obviously it's done something. So I think that, I mean, coming around now, like having the fact that I'm going to go home, we're going to go home for the holidays and get the treatment that I need to get. And just, it's just one more thing that I have to deal with and I will get over it. And I think that mindset switch had to come instead of just being kind of like sad about myself or about my situation. Someone else in the world has it a lot worse than I do.
I love it because I tell my kids all the time, miss me with the pity party. I'm not interested. I've been in gyms where there is no hot water and I have to take a shower and get on the bus and drive 6 hours. So if you're looking for a pity party from me, keep looking. And I love it, like that you're realistic about it. Now, last question before I gotta go, and I have to ask this. Is there some competition in the home? I'm just saying. Is there some goal competitions, or is there like I played better than you this week? You have to cook dinner. Come on, I'm just asking because I mean, me and my wife do volleyball, and I'm terrible.
Wow.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm terrible. I am.
Um,
But if I have a better game than her, then she's definitely got she's got to do something that maybe she doesn't want to do. So is there a level of healthy competition? Because that can turn bad quick.
Very critical. I think he's probably a lot nicer to me. I'm probably a lot harder on him. But I mean, he's been playing pro longer. He needs it. Anyways, when I first came out here, he had scores. So then I scored first, but now he's outdone me. So I feel like I sparked a little thing, and now
Wow, shots fired. I'm just saying that's not cool. Because I mean, if he's supportive and sweet, and then you throw a shot like that, I think Willie has the right to not throw a shot at you. You know what I mean? It's just only fair. Gotta be fair. Gotta be fair about it.
But it's awesome, and it's awesome being in the VIP section for his matches. It's indescribable, and him at my matches, and knowing that now we're grinding together, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But definitely competitive all the time. Any game, puzzle, any card game, so competitive.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's the best thing ever. It's a little healthy competition that doesn't go overboard. No, but all seriousness, man, I am a big fan of yours now. Now that I know you guys, I did see Willie this summer. I think the Haiti game, and I was just like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah.
I called the guy, what is it, Department of Defense, whatever, Owen Darrell, and I texted him because he was at the game. He was like, yo, I'm like, who is this guy? I love him. Who is he? Where is he? And he gave me some information about him. And it's great to connect the dots that you guys are there together. Embrace it. It's one of the hardest jobs to have when you're alone, but you have someone there that's going through it with you. And I'm super excited for you. Yeah, that's all I got for you. I just wanted to come on.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for your time. And as I said before, this is powerful because it's a lot for a lot of young ladies. A lot of young ladies, especially in Bermuda, will look up to you. They have questions, and you have answers, multiple answers. Just always try and make yourself available.
Always.
Always. All right, so I'm gonna let you guys go to a healthy little competition. I think. What is this? What's today? Thursday? So probably Europa's on. Ugh.
Yes.
Maybe you can watch some Europa. Well, you guys have a good evening. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, once it's up, I will share with you to potentially share with your peoples or whatever. But thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Take care. There you have it. We had Eva on. uh, phenomenal athlete from Bermuda, mastering her craft in Sweden. Super grateful for her to take her time to come on. We'll put this out for everybody to see. Again, it's Solid Field's Playbook to Success, where we talk about success and take journeys with students and student athletes and professionals to talk about how they view success and how success has come their way. Thanks so much for your time, and hope you enjoy.